with Brock Purdy and Trey Lance and Sam Darnold. So we now obviously know that there's going to be an open competition at quarterback between all three of these guys. The main issue for me is Trey Lance going to get a fair shake? Is he truthfully going to be given an opportunity to start and play games and play himself into that starting role? Lynch and Shanahan were kind of in lockstep, so to speak, as it pertains to the candidness of them saying, hey, we saw what we saw from Brock. He gave us enough of a sample size for us to be confident enough in him to say, hey, you're the guy going forward. We haven't seen that from Trey, so we're not able to give him, that kind of a step, so to speak. And to me, here's my biggest thing. I feel like Trey Lance basically got screwed. He got screwed in ways that you couldn't imagine. And here's why. Trey Lance basically came in. He was drafted to replace Jimmy Garoppolo. They should have started Trey Lance that same year and just gotten rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. But they felt it best for him to sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo and then them kind of work him in different packages and stuff like that. Then the team revolted, and they said they didn't want him to do that. So Kyle went ahead, listened to his team, didn't do it. But what kills me about the whole Trey Lance situation is how no one backed him. I think the only person that backed him on the squad really was Brandon Ayuk. Everybody else jumped behind whoever was starting. And as a team, you're supposed to jump behind whoever's starting. But what I mean is if people pay attention to us enough, there was an overwhelming amount of support for Jimmy Garoppolo and for Brock Purdy. There wasn't that for Trey Lance. When anyone was asked about Lance, it was just, yeah, he's got good talent. The current center that we have, hey, what's going on, Throwback? The current center that we have, unfortunately, made a pretty snarky comment. He's like, Trey can give us all the gifts he wants. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Trey gives us all the gifts he wants, but Brock's bringing us wins. And it's like, though I understand that, did you really have to say that? It's low-key messed up. The next thing that comes into play is just watching how people clamored behind how, this was working. I'm partially surprised, Throwback. Only reason I'm partially surprised is because Brock gave you enough of a sample size for you to have something to go on. And Trey Lance hasn't been able to provide that due to health, due to the fact they wouldn't start him, a variety of reasons why. But what's going on, Bebop? So for me, here's my number one thing. Then really quickly they asked Kyle about Jimmy. And Jimmy said what he confirmed basically what George Kittle has said all along. Yeah, you got to run into Jimmy physically for him to get back to you because he doesn't talk to him. He doesn't talk to anybody. He doesn't return phone calls, texts, nothing. He literally is one of those people you have to see him face to face to get any kind of interaction. Other than that, he ain't paying no attention to your existence. It's just how he moves. So it kind of killed me that – what's going on, Edgar? It kills me that this has been a known theme about Jimmy Garoppolo, but everybody loves him. And Kyle said the same thing that, he's always said, and it takes me back because it pisses me off because he's like, yeah, that one year he was healthy. He took us to the Super Bowl. He didn't take us anywhere. He rolled the coattails of the defense, special team. Like, there's a variety of things. What's going on, Brian? So there's a variety of things, but either way, this situation with our quarterbacks is tricky because you don't know when Brock's going to be healthy. You don't know if that 3-month window is going to really allow him to throw or if it's going to take longer. It could be longer. It could be shorter. And them asking Kyle Shanahan those questions is fucking work. That's a waste of time. Kyle's going to give you every absolute unknown you can think of. Luke the Don, what's going on, man? What's happening with you? So you could ask Kyle, hey, and they asked Kyle if anyone was hands off. And Kyle said no one was hands off. If they call for me, I'm sure John is listening. If they call for John, I'm sure I'm listening. Like, yes, to the media, you want to make it seem like you're open to everything. Kyle is not open to himself or John Lynch moving out of San Francisco in any way, shape, or form. Ramilia Sports Report. The failures are in the building, everybody. Everybody say what's up to Ramilia. The failures and the brokest franchise in the league at the moment. Say what's up to the guy. What's up, Rudy? But it's a situation of looking at these three guys and figuring out who the best person is. And I'll tell you this. The reason that I believe in Trey Lance over the other two is, number one, Sam Darnold's been in the league for several years. Ain't nothing happened for him. I don't care about your situations or whatever's going on. This guy is literally, he just ain't nothing ever happened. And I've said it before. I'll stick to my guns, and everybody knows I'm one of those people. I don't fold. I don't falter. None of that. At the end of the day, USC quarterbacks don't succeed in the NFL. They just don't. What's going on, Matt? That's it. This is just how it works. You don't believe me? Look at the track record. The last successful quarterback out of USC in the NFL was Mark Sanchez, and he only did that for 2 years straight because he was riding the coattails of a very good Jets defense. Enough said. So that's what I mean when I say that they don't work out. And their track record before that was Carson Palmer. And any other USC quarterback hasn't done much of anything. SC quarterback, I look at SC and Ohio State in the same vein. They produce everything else fairly well. Offensive, defensive linemen, linebackers, wide receivers, all that. Quarterbacks, it's not the thing. So it is what it is. And then you look at Brock Purdy, 7th round pick. He didn't look that good against, the Cowboys when they set up a pretty good defense, against him. And what's up, Dave? So hopefully you look at it and you say to yourself, I'm going to figure out how to get this done. We've got 3 guys on the roster. Trey has obviously made it known that he does not want to wind up being handed the job. He wants to compete for it. And I get that, but to tell you the truth, Trey's best hope is that Brock Purdy's recovery takes longer than anticipated because it's only going to allow him the time. Kyle did state, somebody asked him basically like, hey, if Brock's ready for week 1, even without training camp and all of these other things, is he going to be the starter? And he's like, I have to see how someone practices. All that alludes to is if you give me a good practice, you got the job back. You know what I'm saying? Gammon, family, what's going on, man? How you doing, brother? Shout out to Gammon. We appreciate Gammon for his service. Gammon definitely was military, man. We love the military here on Niner Gang Podcast. Guaranteed at all times. I love them, for what they do. My uncle's in the military. Plenty of family that's been there. But shout out to you, Gammon. Appreciate you for your service, my brother. But let's look at this situation. Brock, 7th round pick, comes in, boom, 8-game rip-off of wins. Whoo, it is crazy. I know, man, Croc ain't been doing no shows. I can't even come through. Plus, when I get up in the morning, man, I'll be beat, bro. But you know me, man. Everybody looks for me on Croc show whenever he does it because they know I'm a firecracker. But I'll say this. When you look at what Brock Purdy did, it was amazing. It was great. Everybody loved it. We all fell in love with that moment that happened. And I appreciate Brock Purdy for everything he's done for this franchise, for the run that he went on, all of that. But I do believe that Trey Lance deserves a fair shot. And I do believe that the only way he's going to get that shot is if that recovery, unfortunately, takes a little bit longer. Now, I'm not wishing that on Brock Purdy. I wish him a speedy recovery. Love to see him back on the field. But what I will say is, I would love to see Trey Lance out there get a fair shake at it. I'd love to see Lance at least be able to play for 6 weeks. If we could get a 6 to 8 week showing of what Lance can do on the field, and you give him the same playbook you gave Jimmy and Brock, and you don't give him whatever that was that you were running before Jimmy and Brock came in, if you do that and you allow him to be the same quarterback that those guys are, I think he's going to wow you, and it's going to wind up putting Brock on the bench. And, I know I've been staunch and very – what's going on, CarCast? I know I've been staunch and very, very strong in my opinion in stating that the Shanahans don't necessarily care for African-American quarterbacks. And it's just because their track record shows such. Some people will try to tell you, well, Mike Shanahan had Donovan McNabb for a little bit while he was with the Skins. At the time, they were called the Skins. But here's the issue. At that time, Redskins, Donovan McNabb was already well into his career. He was already pre-established. He had been with Andy Reid. So why wouldn't he therefore go ahead and say, hey, yeah, come on, Donovan, come through. They know Donovan at that point to bridge quarterback. They know they're not believing in him to take him to a Super Bowl or anything. They're just saying, hey, we need a guy for the moment, and you're the guy. And Donovan probably understood that. It's cool. Because what you have to understand is when you walk into these NFL buildings and you have these meetings, you must make sure that your business is right. And at the same time, you must make sure that you have an understanding of why you are there. Like, there's certain things that will tell you what a person is and what they do and what their reasoning is for being where they are. And when you look at some of these dudes, look at the deal Jimmy Garoppolo got with the Raiders. That's a bridge quarterback deal. I'm going to give you a certain amount of money guaranteed up front. I'm going to give you a 3-year deal. Most of that money is going to be paid within the first to second year. And by that third year, if I feel I have a guy that's ready to start, you're out of here. And it's known. People will tell you that. If you ask people to be, keep it a buck with you, some people may lie to you. But if you're smart about it and you go about it the right way, you know and understand the business, and you come in there with the business mindset, you can walk in and make sure that you understand why you're there. Trey was drafted in a position to be here so that he would be the guy, because Kyle literally basically opened up exactly what they were doing. They're basically saying, hey, if Jimmy stays healthy and he keeps playing the way he's playing, he's going to play himself out of the money that we want to give him. Because we're not looking to pay nobody $40 million a year. That's what we're not looking for. We'd love to win a Super Bowl, but at the end of the day, if you want to get that $40 million a year, you're going to have to go elsewhere. They even asked Kyle about Lamar, as it pertains to if we had any interest. And Kyle tried to play it off. He's like, I can't talk about players on other teams. And someone reminded him, hey, he's an exclusive rights free agent. You can talk about him. But he basically said, no, we don't have any interest in him. So I'm like, all right, cool. But the next thing is, when you look at it, no, they don't have any interest in him. And no, they don't care. Because what is it that you're looking for Lamar? Guaranteed money. What are the 49ers known for? Lowballing. We are not about to go ahead and get that and give that to anyone. The 49ers ain't doing that. You think Parag Marate about to do a fully guaranteed contract for anybody? You can forget about it. It's not going to happen. And I know that because that's how it works. And if we're supposed to practice against the Raiders, Bebop, that's going to be a fun practice. You know why? Because as much as these players say that they like Jimmy and they love him as a person and all this other crap, they go murder him the minute they get a chance. Now, you can't hit the quarterback, but I guarantee you there's going to be about 17 sacks. You know why? Because Jimmy Garoppolo isn't that dude. And the Oakland Raiders offensive line is trash. We all know this. So it's going to be easier for us to get to him. Plus with the guys that we have. And if we can continue, if we can solidify just that other edge opposite Nick Bosa, which I hope we do with Drake Jackson, then we're fine. We have a monster line. We have good depth. We don't have to worry about anything. I know a lot of people are still screaming the name Yannick Ngakoue. The only issue with Ngakoue is that we've signed so many damn linemen that I don't know if we have any money left over for Yannick. I would love to have that. I mean, Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, and Yannick Ngakoue. Are you serious? And then Ngakoue's backup is Drake Jackson? No. As an offensive line, I don't want to see that front four. And I know the three behind him are even worse. You know what I'm saying? And I mean that in a good way, obviously. So you have to be careful with that. But to be honest with you, this is a real competition strictly just between not all three of those dudes. It's strictly just between Trey and Brock. If anybody with a brain in their head knows that Sam Darnold is here because Kyle wanted Sam, but he just didn't want to spend the money and he didn't want the cap. The cap space just wasn't going to be there. So I get it. I truthfully do. But at this point, when I look at it, they've got to give Trey 6 to 8 games to be able to say, this is my body of work. Compare that against Brock, figure out who's going to start. Because all offseason, that's going to be the topic of discussion, is who's going to be the quarterback for the 49ers when the season starts. What's Brock's timeline? How's he progressing? All of these things are going to be continually, talked about in different spaces, in different circles. All those things are going to come into play. One thing that I did hear from Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch in lockstep again with this is that Colt McKivitz is our right tackle. They believe in him. They feel he's going to be the guy. They're going to put him starting. Here's the other thing. Don't play the musical chair shit and be trying everybody and their mama out behind, in front of Trey or even in front of Sam. Let them build continuity. If you got second stringers, put them with the second stringers. If you got first stringers, put them with the first stringers. Make these guys do what they need to do. Now, the only person on that line that deserves any type of rest would be Trent Williams. If you're moving in and out on the left tackle to an extent, kind of get it, because you give Trent Williams vet days here and there because he is a vet and he's been doing this for years and you already know what you have in him. But anybody else on that line, you got to build continuity. The triple Bs are back. Banks, Brendel, and Burford, they're all still there. They're all there. That's fine. We now know that Colt McKivitz is the right tackle. Trent Williams is the left tackle. We know Trent's the best on the line. We'll have to see how Colt McKivitz works out. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? He played pretty much every position except for center, if I'm not mistaken, when he was at, I believe he's out of West Virginia. But he played every position except for center. So he's got the versatility that the 49ers like. They gave him a new little deal. And we did sign a bunch of people. Just remember, all the people that we signed are probably not going to wind up making a roster. Some of these dudes are camp bodies. And you have to remember, a franchise, any NFL franchise, plans for money that they know they're going to lose, so to speak. That guaranteed money you give somebody in their contract is usually an indication of, hey, I'm going to give you $300,000 guaranteed. I know there's a possibility $300,000 just walks out the door because this guy didn't make the cut. Whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how the inner workings of each individual contract are because I haven't been able to delve into that. Believe me, I would tell you right now, my dream job is to be a GM in the NFL. I would love that because I would love to be able to understand the numbers and figures and how we work these things and crunch them and put them together. But I can tell you right now, certain players I ain't lowballing. Certain players I am. And if I'm a GM, you're going to have to give me at least 2 years of consistency before you walk in the door asking me for money. If you give me 1 year and you wind up a free agent the next year, then you need to go elsewhere and get paid. That's fine. You go ahead. You figure out whatever you want to figure out. But I'm not going to take that chance on giving you money and then you don't pan out. Because look at what happened with Josh Norman. Josh Norman did what? He wound up getting that money, and now look at him. Nothing. You see what I'm saying? So look at Zeke Elliott. They paid him $90 million. What does he get? Nothing. He didn't give him much. So you just have to be mindful of who you pay and how much you pay. That's definitely, what it is. And I agree with you, Brian. The best player should start, regardless of the fans' feelings, draft capital, or contract price. Best player should start. But for me, I'm just stating that because he hasn't gotten a fair shake at it, and because Kyle Shanahan decided to run him into the ground last year, you got to give that dude at least 6 to 8 games to prove himself. And the way the 49ers work, they don't like rushing people back, and you definitely don't want to rush a quarterback back off of an injury because you don't know how he's going to be. So when he said, I have to see him practice, I agree with that. But in that same vein, I would say you still need to give Trey his opportunity. You've got to allow that young man to do what he does because out of all three of these quarterbacks, Trey's the one getting paid the most. And it's just kind of odd how you got the guy getting most money sitting on the bench if that's how you're going to work it. But I don't run the 49ers, so I can't do anything. And yes, yeah. And here's my thing with our Super Bowl drought. If we get to another NFC championship and something freaking nature happens, I'm sorry. I feel like Kyle's got a curse on him, and it ain't going to work out. Because he should not have that situation. Y'all give me just 1 second. He should not have that situation. Kyle has been to a Super Bowl and 2 NFC Championship games, and the Super Bowl he got comfortable. Bad move. You got comfortable against Patrick Mahomes, which is the dumbest thing you could have done. And then in the NFC Championship game, of course, you can't rely on Jimmy because he's just not going to do what he needs to do. I know a lot of people try to blame that game on Jaquiski Tart. That's not Tart's fault. That's not his fault. That's Jimmy's fault because he couldn't operate. And then again, it's partially Kyle because I don't know why Debo wasn't in the game. They never explained that part. And then in this last one, what happened? I mean, hell, Brock just got his arm ripped off. Some people blame Brock and say, hey, he could have just put the ball out early. That wouldn't have happened. Some people blame Tyler Kroft and say, hey, he should have been better at blocking, or why would you put Kroft over there with Hassan Reddick? Why didn't Purdy walk up? There's a lot of what ifs. At the end of the day, the guy got injured. We wound up losing Josh Johnson too, so he had to come back into the game as far as Brock Purdy, that is. Then we had CMC. It was just a disaster. So if it winds up another situation like this, I don't know what's going on with Kyle. I'm going to start questioning like, hey, are you even able to do it? Your pops was able to pull it off, but I don't know. Kyle's been to 2 Super Bowls and lost several NFC Championship games, and he's only won one. He's won 2. He's been to 4. He's won 2, so he's 500 at this point. But I just want him to be able. I just want our situation to be better than what it is. I want Brock Purdy to get healthy and be better. But what I also want is I want the locker room to back Trey Lance like they back Brock Purdy. Because what's going to happen is our soft ass media is going to walk in the room, and the minute Trey Lance is named the starter because Brock Purdy obviously can't go, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to ask all the players, who do you want as your starter? And they're going to have to say the politically correct thing of we're behind whoever's under center. But you don't want that rift in the locker room. You want peace. And I get it and I understand it, but for me, I'm one of those dudes. I don't want anything to do with any of these guys not having a proper opportunity or fair shake at things. And to be honest with you, Sam Darnold's in here. He's just a third quarterback. That's fine. Stay here, learn, figure out the playbook. It's a lot to take in, a lot to digest. And believe me, Trey Lance is such a good dude. He will come through. He will help you, walk you through it the same way he was helped. But I still believe that Trey Lance needs to have a fair shake at things. He has to be able to be given the opportunity to do things, and that and at the same time, give him a playbook that doesn't get him hurt. Don't make him run. Tell him if the opportunity presents itself and you have no other option, then run. But don't design runs for him unless you're on the goal line. If you're on the goal line, yeah, you want to design a run for Trey. It's cool. Because you know what? When we were getting our ass kicked in that game against the Packers, he came in and gave us a shot in the arm. Where? On the goal line. First touchdown of the season when Trey was drafted. What did he do? Throw that to Trent Sherfield. So there's things that come into play, but you want to make sure that these guys have the right opportunity in front of them. I know a lot of people don't put stock into anything said so early. They're like, a lot of people are like, we're in March. This doesn't matter. They're just saying that right now. It matters a lot, at least to me. The reason being is because I don't want Trey Lance to get screwed. I really don't. I don't want him to wind up in a situation where he was injured, he loses his job due to injury, and then he gets done like Jimmy Ward. You want to ride the bench? Because that's what you're going to do. Brock's healthy now. We ain't seen enough from you, so we're going back to him. And you don't have a full season on Brock Purdy, but you defenses have enough. They've got that game film to go on to figure out how to stop him. They'll figure out what he does. Now, is Kyle Shanahan somewhat of a magician when he kind of does his things? Yeah, he is. But I can't say that I believe that Kyle's going to be perfect with everything. You know what I'm saying? Here we go. My buddy Gammon here said, here's the real recipe for concern. If it's a big if, Trey wins the starting QB spot, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have just painted themselves into a wall where they're now forced to explaining why BP lost. Facts. 100% facts. That makes total sense. Yeah, oh my God, don't remind me of that, Brian. I was at that game. I was literally at that game, and I was 3 rows up from the players and whatnot. I saw everybody clearly. Still have my pictures from those games. I love it. But that was the worst game plan that I've ever seen in my life. And it just, I don't know, man. It was just really bad luck. But what people seem to forget is they say, oh, well, Jimmy took us, to the playoffs. Do you know, like, people forget that if Trey doesn't come in and win that game in Houston, we don't go to the playoffs because Jimmy couldn't do shit earlier. Just saying. So, number one thing for me, give Trey Lance a fair shot. Don't screw the kid. You know what I'm saying? Give him the opportunity. Let him be who he is and let him do what he's supposed to do. And I believe that if you give him the right opportunity, he's going to go out there and show you exactly why you drafted him, where you drafted him. I still am of the belief that I don't believe that this was the dude that Kyle Shanahan wanted. His type of quarterback, honestly, is your Sam Darnold's, his man crush and Kirk Cousins, Brock Purdy. Like, those are the guys that he likes. He likes a regular white quarterback with a little mobility that can wiggle if he needs to, but he's not committed to running. He's more of a pocket guy. And you drafted a guy who can do that. You're just not allowing him to. Give him the same playbook. Give him the same opportunities and allow him to be who he is and see what you get. I guarantee you everything that Brock and Jimmy did, Trey can do. They just never allowed him to. So while I get it, I still would like them to basically make sure that they take care of my dude, because I appreciate him for everything that he did. You know what I mean? What is that? Somebody. But I look at it like this. I like Trey Lance. I feel like he's the guy. I feel like he should start. I want him to have a better opportunity at doing everything, and I want him to have the right opportunity. I don't want him to be a guy that comes in and the next thing you know, Brock is healthy, so now we're just kicking you to the curb. That's not okay. You know what? I think Kyle wanted he either wanted Wilson or Mac Jones. I definitely don't believe he wanted Trey Lance. But I believe that what happened was it was somebody in the front office, whether it had been Jed, whether it had been Kyle, because they swore up and down that it was just between them two that they kept that information. So to me, that's a crock of shit, because if you kept that just between you two, John Lynch usually isn't too argumentative with Kyle about picks. Somebody in that organization looked at him and was like, you are not about to draft another Jimmy Garoppolo, because if that's the case, you might as well stick with the same dude you got. And he was forced to draft Trey Lance. And when he drafted Trey Lance, he didn't know what to do with him. He didn't know what to do with RG3. And they didn't want RG3. The owner, Daniel Snyder, wanted RG3. But what did they do? They went and drafted an insurance policy in Kirk Cousins in that same draft. So these are just some of the things that you see, and you know why these things go on. So while I appreciate them and I appreciate Kyle for the time that he's been here, glad that he's finally got his record over 500, he's still got to do the ultimate goal and bring that 6th Lombardi to San Francisco. I can tell you this. If we keep going year in and year out and being competitive, it's nice, but I don't want to be just competitive. I want Super Bowl rings. I want wins. I want more Lombardis in our case than any other team in the league. And if you can't do that, then you've got to go. And I don't believe in giving a man another extension when he ain't even gave you the ultimate goal yet. They gave this man another 6-year deal, and he ain't even brought us a Super Bowl yet. We only went to one. So for me, it's just showing and proving. Open the door, man. Hey, can you do this? Yes. Can you get us a Super Bowl? Yes. All right. If you can get us a Super Bowl, get us there. Make it happen. The minute you win that Super Bowl, this new contract is yours. But until that Super Bowl is won, it is what it is. And you can't blame Kyle for injuries, But I'm just saying, like, there's got to be some kind of like bad luck or bad energy circling around the dude because every time he gets to the mountaintop, he gets knocked off. And you feel bad for him. You don't want him to lose. And you can't blame him, like I said, for injuries. But partially you can blame him for Trey Lance's injury. Why do you have him running? Why are you giving him so many RPOs? Like, this isn't a college quarterback. He's an NFL quarterback. You gave him your playbook. He digested the thing within 2 months. He logged more hours than anybody. Why? Because he was learning. He was figuring things out. But you won't let him go out there and execute? Don't hold him back. Allow that kid to get out there, ball, and show you what he can do. Everyone says he's got the highest ceiling out of all three of these quarterbacks. If he's got the highest ceiling, then open the door and let him kick that shit down. Let him get out there and be the player that you know he can be. I do believe that Trey Lance is a fantastic football player, a better human being, and he'll be able to do whatever he needs to do in this league. But you got to give him the opportunity. So once he has that opportunity, go ahead and allow him to do what he needs to do. It's that simple. So looking at everything that was said and everything that they talked about in these owners' meetings, it's cool. I don't see them drafting another quarterback. They may even get a UDFA just to bring in and have them work with the practice squad or something, because I do believe they are more comfortable running with just the three that they currently have, which is why Kyle pretty much shut down the whole Lamar Jackson thing. But either way, it's still a situation where people were clamoring for him. Lamar Jackson was never going to be a Niner. Number one, we ain't giving out that guaranteed money. You already know that. You talk to Parag, he'll laugh in your face at that. Number two, he doesn't fit the system. And number three, we don't have the first round picks that they're going to require getting for us working out a deal and trading him. It's that simple. Because any deal he gets, they're able to go ahead and match that because he's only exclusive rights free agent. They did that purposely because they knew he wasn't going to get paid. And the owners colluded together on that. A lot of people will say it's not collusion. I 100% believe they band together and said, we got to figure out a way to stop this shit from happening. And unfortunately, Lamar is the example that they use to be made out of. Look at what they did to Michael Vick. I love animals just as much as the next person, but in the state of Virginia, dogfighting is a misdemeanor, not a felony. And that's technically a slap on the wrist. He should have had a fine, slap on the wrist, and moved on with his life. But he's Michael Vick. He's very popular. Now it turns into a dogfighting ring, and there's all kinds of things. And it all goes through this route, and I understand it. But the only reason Michael Vick got the kind of time that he got was because he was Michael fucking Vick. If he'd have just been a regular smuggler dude, they'd have gave him a slap on the wrist and called it a motherfucking day. But nope, they gave that man years in Leavenworth, which is a serious prison. Like, this ain't regular. Like, that's state, that's federal. And yes, a lot of people are screaming from our fan base, are screaming Dorian Thompson-Robinson. With a 7th round pick, probably. But he's a project. I know because I'm a UCLA guy. I love Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I love his skill set, but he's going to take some work. And I'm not trying to down the dude. I love my UCLA guys. I vouch for them on any occasion. But honestly, just looking at his body of work, he's still got some work to do. So if you do bring him up, it's cool. You'll have another guy, but I don't see him being on the squad as far as like up there on game day. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. Exactly. Draft Joey. Joey can do it all, man. Y'all have no idea. Joey's an amazing football player. But that's just basically it. I just wanted to touch on the quarterback situation and what was said between John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. They're pretty much in lockstep with everything that they stated. They usually don't veer off from each other too far, which I can appreciate because then, you're not confused on why one person is saying this, why another person is saying that. But other than that, there's not much going on in Ninerland. I think we're done in free agency as of right now. If we do sign some players, probably going to be a bunch of no-name guys that are just camp bodies. But I think we're gearing up for the draft at this point. We've slowed down. There's certain players that are still out there that people are looking into. But we've done what we needed to do. We made our big splash with Javon. And, we had a couple other guys come along, and I know we got a few offensive linemen, the Feliciano, and a couple other cats that are, going to be out there trying to earn spots and figure out what their best bet is. We know Brunskill's gone because he wanted to make sure that he was able to start. And yeah, I mean, it can be frustrating because you're rotating with a rookie, but hey, Spencer Burford played his heart out, so it is what it is. But if there's any more news to come, I will definitely keep you guys updated. Yeah, Le'Veon Bell lost to a contract dispute. I mean, Le'Veon Bell was doing the same thing that other people were doing. He had them time and he wanted to get paid. Then he went and got paid and ain't done shit since. And that's the unfortunate thing. You run that serious risk of paying someone and not getting the actual full production that you anticipated out of them. You know what I mean? So let's hope that this year comes along and we're great and we can do the things we need to do. I'll be at the Arizona game. Why? Because it'll actually be in Arizona and they won't steal it and give it down to Mexico. No, nothing against, Mexico or the Mexican people. They love us down there. They hated the the Cardinals and loved the Niners. But I like to go to the games because I live in Arizona and it makes my life that much easier. But thank y'all so much for tuning in. Everybody stay up, stay blessed, stay faithful. I'm out this joint. Peace.